All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great Thursday evening, and welcome to Any Given Sunday. I am the co-host, Coach Penny, 2-4, Darwin Penny, and we are awaiting the arrival of my co-host, the awesome voice, Mr. Brian Kress, behind the mic and on our board today, Mr. George Walker, DJ Scatter. Mr. Walker, how you doing today?
All right, it's a good evening, and I feel just great.
All right, here we are in this beautiful fall weekend eve. We're excited about the opportunity we have to come and just talk a little bit about sports. Tonight we're going to start off talking a little bit. We're excited that the World Series will begin tomorrow. We have our World Series opponents of the Houston Astros, our 2017 champions, and the Philadelphia Phillies have arrived back in the World Series for the first time since 2011. Tomorrow night's matchup is going to feature Justin Verlander, who this year has been outstanding at age 39, 18-4, with a 1.75 ERA, 185 Ks in the postseason. He's 1-0, has a high 6.30 ERA, but has 14 strikeouts to go along with that. But we know he is capable of being a big game pitcher. He has a ton of playoff and World Series experience. He's done exactly what the Astros wanted him to do years ago when they brought him from Detroit to Houston. His opponent will be Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola this year was 11-13 with a 3.25 ERA. Had 235 Ks on the season, and postseason he's 2-1 with a 3.12. Had a huge win for the Phillies against the Padres in the National League Championship Series, and so I think this is going to be an outstanding World Series, especially when you're looking at the fact that the Astros are supposed to be here. The Astros had 106 wins this year, second only to the Dodgers. A lot of people are still talking about what happened in 2017 with the scandal of the sign stealing. But I think the manager, Dusty Baker, has had a huge impact on being able to get most fans' minds on the team and not what happened in 2017. The Astros also coming in with a lot of playoff experience, having been in the playoffs for the last 6 seasons in a row. And so there's something to be said for that. The Astros offensively certainly are led by Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, and then certainly this year have had surprise performances from Kyle Tucker in the playoffs, and then Yordan Alvarez has been very, very huge in the playoffs. Has come up with some big home runs, and then Yuli Gurriel also has been very hot as well. But it wasn't always the middle of the lineup that got them through the series with the Yankees, but very, very impressed by the bottom of their lineup that was able to come through with some huge clutch hits, especially in the last game, Game 4. It was the bottom of the lineup. Altuve did not have a great series, but he seems to start hitting the ball a little bit better in the last couple of games, breaking out of an 0-for-24 slump. The Astros pitchers really pitched well in the American League Championship Series, really controlling the bat of Aaron Judge, who probably will be our American League most valuable player this year. Put up astronomical numbers, certainly setting the American League record this year with 62 home runs, and they were able to hold him to a paltry less than 100 average during that series. And so when you look at overall the Astros pitching, will they be able to control the Phillies lineup, which is led by Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is now a veteran who was the heralded young man coming into Major League Baseball, the first pick overall in the 2010 draft. and Bryce Harper continues to have an outstanding postseason this year. He's played really, really well in this postseason. He's hitting at a .419 clip with 18 hits and 43 at-bats. He's also scored 10 runs. He's had 5 big home runs in the playoffs, which gives him an OPS of 1351, which is outstanding. He's also getting on base quite a bit at a .444 clip. And so will he and the rest of the Phillies lineup be able to handle that? Rhys Hoskins, the power hitting first baseman, has had not a great postseason average wise. If you were to look at his average, he's only hit 182 in the postseason, but he has 5 big home runs and 11 RBIs in the postseason. And so it's going to be, I believe, the final is who's going to come up with the clutch hits at the clutch situations. Hoskins, Harper, Castellanos, all guys that'll be there. And then JT Realmuto behind the plate. Kyle Schwarber had his bat with some key hits in the postseason. Again, not a big average, but has 3 home runs in the postseason. And those home runs all came at key moments that were able to shift the momentum for the Phillies over the Padres. The Phillies are playing on what we would call house money. The Phillies are not supposed to be here at the All-Star break. The Phillies had a below 500 record and then fired their manager. They fired their manager in midseason, and their interim manager seemed to right the ship and give them a great opportunity to move forward in the regular season, gaining a wild card berth, and then giving themselves an opportunity by winning not only the wild card, but then winning the division series, and then ultimately the National League pennant over the heavily favored San Diego Padres. I know Padre fans, Awesome Voice, who's won, are really disappointed because they'd gone out and spent a lot of money bringing in Juan Soto, bringing in Josh Bell to bolster an already stout lineup with guys like Manny Machado in the lineup, only to fall short. Hugh Darvish was another offseason acquisition for them that would give them a better rotation. And then they also were able to bring in Josh Hader, who is the closer for the Padres, who had been a longtime closer for Milwaukee for a couple of years in a row. He had led the National League in saves for the Milwaukee Brewers. And so it's a great opportunity to see this matchup and how they're going to move forward. I guess the most interesting thing about the World Series is that the World Series is starting on a Friday. Can you imagine the World Series starting on a Friday? I really believe that Major League Baseball missed out on an opportunity over the last couple of days, Awesome Voice, to not change. They were so rigid in their schedule that they did not change. And so here we were, based on how our sports calendar works, Monday Night Football, not games on Tuesday, usually not games on Wednesday. College season, the college weekend usually starts on Thursday. And then Friday night, most people on Friday night are either watching or at high school football games, or it's date night or family night, game night. And here we are starting the World Series on a Friday night, and I felt like we missed a great opportunity. This is the most busiest time. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago. This is the busiest time of the sports calendar, where we have the World Series, for Major League Baseball. We have hockey that's beginning. We are in our first week of the NBA season, and we're almost to the midway point of the NFL and college seasons. And here baseball is missed a golden opportunity to go out and showcase their best time of the year, October baseball, by having 3 days in a row where there was no baseball. And so, what were your thoughts on that, Brian?
Well, I'll tell you this: they blew it about as bad as Mike Evans blew that opportunity to catch that touchdown pass. They could have started the World Series on Tuesday, because there was nothing going on Tuesday. There's minor stuff, a little hockey, a little basketball, but there was nothing going on. You could have started Tuesday, you could have started Wednesday, and then you could have moved it. So I think it's in Houston, right? So it would start in Houston. So the first 2 days would be in Houston, and then Friday night in Philadelphia. And that would have been awesome. And it is just another proof how baseball is just killing themselves, and they can't blame nobody. They shoot themselves in the foot. So, I mean, if other people are putting them down, it's because they're causing this issue. There was an opportunity. I mean, so like yesterday, there was nothing going on. Tuesday, there was nothing going on. When did and I'm trying to remember offhand because, and for everybody to know, I just got here. So, but
you got here safely.
I got here safely. But I think they ended it on Sunday, didn't they?
Absolutely.
So they were all done on Sunday. And so now you wait 5 days. 5 days. 5 days of nothing. It would be like a company that relies on doing things on a consistent basis and says, okay, well, we just won't deliver or get any product for 5 days.
Right. And we know that the series is planned out ahead of time. But are you going to be so rigid? Because obviously neither series went 7 games. The National League Series only went 5 games, and then the Astros swept the Yankees. But both series ended Sunday, and could you not make just a little bit of adjustment? Both teams were going to be in situations where they had to travel. The Astros clinched in New York, and the Phillies clinched in San Diego. So that was an opportunity. No, they clinched at home.
They clinched at home.
They made sure they didn't go back to San Diego.
Right.
And so here they were. Both teams are on the East Coast, so nobody's getting an advantage from a travel standpoint. Can we not get both teams in Houston, give them a day's rest for travel and to get acclimated? Even if you give them 2 days, you're able to start at least on Wednesday. Can you not adjust the schedule to start on Wednesday instead of Friday?
Right. Absolutely. But normally when they do that, don't they start the World Series when it's at a certain place? They do it for 2 days in a row. So you could have done it Wednesday and Friday, or you could have even challenged the Thursday night football, and do it Wednesday and Thursday. But Tuesday and Wednesday was the perfect opportunity. Yeah. Everybody would people who do not watch baseball during the year will watch the World Series. I don't care if it's a team you like or a team you don't like or a team you don't even care. You could care less about. I'm not happy the Phillies are in it, but you better believe I'm going to be watching it.
Absolutely. Most moderate fans, this is the opportunity for them to pay attention. But now it's going to be challenged all weekend by the things that are going on. Now, being a native Texan, let me tell you what people do in Texas on Friday night.
Okay.
People in Texas go and fill high school stadiums galore, okay? And especially in Houston, Texas, where there's going to be a ton of fans all over. And so now you're going to get the fans that are going to show up at the stadium, but your television viewership is where you're going to hurt. And I'm going to be anxious to see the Nielsen ratings for Friday night's game, especially in that Houston market, as to how many people are tuned in. Pennsylvania is also another great high school football state. And so how many Philly fans are going to be supporting their kids at football games, or kids who are in the fine arts, who are in the marching band, or kids who may be in the drill team or the flags, or so many other opportunities that they get to go out and support on a Friday night. And so it's just one of those things that we do know they make the schedules far in advance on what days each games are going to be played. And I know there are things that are in the networks, but from the World Series standpoint, because of the time of the year, can you put some flexibility in it to say that it will start 2 days after both series have finished? Is that hard? And then this is when games 3, 4, and 5 will be. But games 1 and 2, can you capture that audience by looking at what the NFL schedule is going to be and say we've got to start the series midweek when we're not going up against the NFL. It's fine to go up against the NBA and NHL right now because they're in the infancy of their seasons, but right now, the biggest things that are on television are NFL and college football. And so Major League Baseball has struggled over the last year in a declining participation. We've spent a lot of time, myself and a lot of other people who have been involved with youth baseball, trying to get the interest of this next generation that is glued to YouTube and things like that. How are you going to get these kids? As I said about a week ago, when the average male viewership for Major League Baseball is a 54-year-old white male. And so how are you going to get these next generations? And one of the things that we'll talk about later is we're going to talk about the influence of who's not in the World Series this year when we come back with Penny for your thoughts. But it's just one of those things. Who is your World Series pick?
Houston. No doubt about it.
He says no doubt about it that he's going with Houston. I'm going to go with Houston also because I think top to bottom they're a little bit deeper in the pitchers in the pitching staff. I think if I had one pitcher on both teams to pick to throw Game 7 for me, certainly Justin Verlander would be that person. I think that right now Houston. Bottom of the lineup is probably hitting a little bit better because Houston's top of the lineup really hadn't been as effective as they normally could be. Altuve has struggled in the postseason, but he seemed to be coming out over the last few games, and so I think it is going to be an Astros victory. I would be happy for the fact that Dusty Baker would finally get that elusive championship for himself. He's been a long time. He's been a lifer in the game. Dusty got to the major leagues at 19 years old, coming out of Oakland, California, and made his appearance with the Braves led by Hank Aaron. And so that tells you how much longevity he has in the game, is that he was teammates with Hank Aaron. Who we lost earlier. And so here's Dusty. He's got over 2,000 wins as a major league manager, has had success in Cincinnati. He's had success in San Francisco. He's had success in Chicago. He had success with the Nationals, and now here he is with the Astros, again having success. And so it would be a crowning achievement for him as one of the lifers in baseball. To go out on top. But again, the Phillies are playing with house money. They're not supposed to be here, and so they can go in and they can play loosey-goosey and play pedal to the metal. Harper is making a name for himself. He came into Major League Baseball with a ton of hype, being the first overall pick. Things like that. He was the boy wonder, getting to the major leagues at 19 years old. He's got a couple of MVPs, and so he's put together a solid career. And to see what the last decade of his career would be like if he were to get a World Series championship, would that spur him on to greater and maybe even fulfill his Hall of Fame predictions when he was drafted #1 overall in 2010.
Right, absolutely. And to add on to Dusty Baker, wouldn't you say Dusty Baker was the Major League Baseball version of Andy Reid? And he was a great, coach, and he won everywhere but the Super Bowl, and then he finally did it. And I think once Dusty, and I truly believe, I don't think Philadelphia will win. I think, if anything, they'll win 2 games. But other than that, they will. I think Houston will take care of them. I know they're playing with house money, but now they are playing a team. And you could say Atlanta was a good team, but Houston is a dominating team. And I think that they've got they will have their hands full with that. But I will say that Dusty Baker will finally he doesn't need this win or the championship to prove his worth, but he will get the championship to extend his worth.
Absolutely. Here's the we know what we need to do. We need to start having a trivia question every week, and I think that would be fun. Somebody tell me what Dusty Baker's real name is.
Ooh.
And it's not Dusty.
Oh, it's not Dusty? Does DJ Scatter know what it is?
No, I do not, but they can call in at 816-599-6893. If you know Dusty Baker's true name, his birth certificate name, give us a call, 816-599-6893.
There you go. You guys got an opportunity, so it would be great to hear you guys and call in and speak your piece and let us know if you know that, because I do not. I will have to admit, I do not know his given name, his birth given name. So
I know it.
Oh, did you know it?
I do know it.
So how long have you known it?
I've known it for about 4 years. I got a chance to meet Dusty back in 2018 in Dallas at the American Baseball Coaches Convention, and he was there, and somebody called him by his real name and got a laugh in there, and so figured out what his real name was. So, but I'm not going to reveal it. Let's just see if we've got a listener out there who can tell us what Dusty Baker's real name is.
Absolutely.
I will reveal it at the end of the show.
Gotcha. So we've got baseball done. The World Series will be happening tomorrow. Well, tonight we've got a team that is really struggling. Thursday Night Football usually has some really lame games. This one may be a little different. You've got Baltimore going to Tampa Bay, facing Tom Brady, who has not had who is not right now have a winning record. They're 3-4. The last time he had a losing record at this point of the season was 20 years ago in 2002, and that was when New England did not make the playoffs. And he is really struggling. And you could see, in the beginning, it looked like that they were going to take care of Carolina. He threw the bomb. It was going to be 75 yards. He can still throw the ball. If anybody questioned his ability of throwing the ball, that should have been answered when he threw it to Mike Evans. But the second he dropped it, you could just see how everything just changed from there. It was almost like Carolina just lit up Tampa Bay. And, and as you always say, which is our show, any given Sunday. So that is, is just really, really hard to see. Now, saying this, do you think Tom Brady should retire after this season?
Well, if it was my decision, Tom would have retired a couple of years ago when he won the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs, right? He had an opportunity to go out not very many players get to go out on their own terms.
Right.
And normally, players are like boxers, or quarterbacks especially are like boxers, and they stay a year or so too long. But Tom's been really good in his 40s.
Right.
We saw him last year, and he looked as good as he has any other. When you look at his physical component of what he's doing on the field, when you look at the ball coming out of his hand, when you look at his movement, Tom never relied on elite feet or anything like that, but he's always been very nimble in the pocket and has been able to manage the pocket. The arm strength's still there where he can throw the deep ball. He has struggled in that there's been a lot of overhaul and a lot of change on the line. And then his receivers have been a little bit banged up. But at the same time, he has not played well.
No.
We have to be honest about that. But it's not from a lack of arm strength or anything like that. I think the biggest thing weighing on his mind is the struggles that he's having at home. And that his wife wants him to retire. She wants him to be in one piece. She wants him to be able to spend more time with his kids as they're getting older and getting more involved in life in general. And I think that, as much as anything, weighs on him. I think there is a little bit of a challenge with having a new head coach versus Bruce Arians, which really this was going to be Tom's decision to stay or not stay. You know, he retired, then he unretired, and so he decided to come back. He doesn't have a safety blanket, right? In the last, couple of years, he's been able to get his old buddy Rob Gronkowski back out of retirement to come out there and have that safety net. Then you look at Godwin's been hurt. Julio got down there. He's been hurt, and then Mike Evans has been in there most of the time, but he's not 100%. And then to your point, last week he drops a wide open touchdown, and you say, could that have been the momentum they need? Because you're playing a lesser opponent, and our rule has always been you don't let lesser opponents hang around. You let them hang around, bad things happen. But the bottom line is the Bucs didn't score. They're struggling to score touchdowns. They've got a big running back in Leonard Fournette that they ought to be able to lean on and to be able to throw him balls out of the backfield. And that defense is not as good as it was a couple of years ago when they won the Super Bowl, or even last year. And so I think there is a lot going on in Tampa Bay, and now pressure's starting to get on. Everybody's starting to be a little bit uptight and be a little bit testy, and the locker room is probably not the same as it once was. And so here's an opportunity for them to try to get the ship righted. As we sat here last week, one of the things that we said was, despite their struggles, the division is weak, and they still should win the division. And what do? They go out and they get beat by Carolina, playing with their third quarterback.
And just got rid of their best player.
And had gotten rid of Christian McCaffrey.
And you could easily say that they were tanking. You could have, I know teams say they don't tank, but here was a perfect example of a team so-called tanking, and then they turned around and just...
Everything said that the Panthers would not be ready to play. McCaffrey gone. Mm-hmm. 2 quarterbacks hurt. Head coach fired. Mm-hmm. You're playing for an interim coach, right? Everything says that, okay, we're going to get the picks and we're going to start getting ready for the next year. Now, with that said, last year when McCaffrey's out, Chuba Hubbard had a really good season, and he had a really good game the other day. Yep. And Devontae Foreman has also found some new legs there in Carolina, where, at one time he was the top running back in Atlanta, and all of a sudden he busted some long runs the other day. And so where is that vaunted run defense that the Bucs have? And so they're a team in turmoil, and are the Ravens the team to help you get out of your turmoil?
Right.
I say no, because the Ravens are fighting for their own lives.
Yeah.
They've played well, except for in the fourth quarter. They're the best 3-quarter team in the league, you could argue. But they've blown 3 double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. Why can't they put games away?
Right.
And so here they are now in Tampa, and are they the remedy? Their ineptness in the fourth quarter is that the remedy to get Tampa back up and rolling? But it's only going to get worse if Tampa doesn't win this game tonight. All of a sudden, Carolina starts saying, well, we're really not that far out. We're only 2 games out.
Yep.
You know, the Saints are struggling, still trying to find themselves.
Well, actually, no. The Panthers are only 1 game out.
1 game out because they won that game.
So if Tampa loses tonight and Carolina wins, then they could be tied for first. It depends on what Atlanta does because they are playing. They're playing Carolina.
They're playing
Carolina. So if Tampa loses tonight, the winner of the Atlanta-Carolina game will be in first place because Atlanta will at least be 4-4. But if Carolina wins, they'll be 3-5, but they will have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay for beating them. So, and they are the only conference or division in football that has every team under 500.
Yeah. Tampa's 3-4, Atlanta's 3-4, and the Panthers and the Saints are both 2-5. So yeah, what used to be made fun of my favorite division, the NFC East being called the NFC least. Well, I don't know what they're going to call the NFC South. But yeah, it makes for an interesting conversation. So I still think at the end of the season, Tampa Bay will win that division, but everything will line up for them to be one and done in the playoffs because they just have not played well. Now, there are those who will go back to the first year when Brady was there and they won the Super Bowl over the Chiefs. They were 7-5 at a little past the midway point, and then all of a sudden they put it together, run the table, and then find themselves in the Super Bowl and play the game of their lives in the Super Bowl to beat the favorite Chiefs. And so, but that's not the same team that you're looking at today. And so can Tom Brady pull one more set of magic beans, out of his pocket to be able to ignite that team? But what I see right now is a team that's in turmoil, that is not together. At least when they were 7-5 a couple of years ago, they were together. It was just a matter of them starting to cohesively work together and find that winning combination.
Absolutely. And here is the other thing. I think Todd Bowles hit it right. You know, they've been gravy training the last couple of years, just thinking just because they won a Super Bowl, you can just stroll into anybody's place and just walk away with a victory. And you can't do that, I mean, even Kansas City learned that the hard way last year when they were struggling at 2-4, and everybody thought that, Mahomes was done, bringing the second stringer, Dallas. But you have to play 17 games, and yes, you're not going to play your A game every week, but you've got to bring it every week. Mm-hmm. You can't just sit there. This ain't high school, or this ain't Alabama, where you can play a subpar team and still play your C game and still walk away with a 2-touchdown, 3-touchdown victory. It will not work that way. Tampa Bay and Carolina just proved that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the other thing you have to do is you go back and you look at some of Tom's statistical data that is lower than it normally, his average norms, right? He's only averaging 6.6 yards per pass attempt. And when you go in and you throw the ball almost 60 times and you throw for less than, barely 200 yards, that's not very good. And so he has to assume some of the blame. When you are the quarterback, you're going to get all of the credit, but nobody wants them to accept all of the blame when the team's not playing well. And so I think at this point he's got to be able to do that. And so he's also got a passer rating of just above 90. That's really, really low for Tom Brady. As a matter of fact, I think that has him about 23rd in the league as far as passer rating.
Well, that would tell you that's the bottom third of the NFL. So, and normally Brady is in the top third of the NFL, usually in his passer rating. And, here's another example, Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is infamous for just trying to blame the wide receivers and the skilled players and the offensive line and the coaching, but he won't blame himself. There is an issue with him. He's only thrown 8 touchdown passes. I mean, in comparison, Patrick Mahomes has over 20 right now, and yeah, he's leading the league, but still, that's less than half of what he has, and he has just been mauled, and I get that. He's lost his best lineman, Bakateri. He's been hurt in and out, but still, you have to still perform. And so, these players that are in the older age, Father Time is finally starting to catch up with them. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a quarterback that will last as long as Tom Brady, because that's 7 more years. I believe he will be, in December, he will be 39 years old. Tom Brady is already 45. And I just cannot see Aaron Rodgers playing 6 more years of football, or at least competitive football. He's going to end up being on the bench, and he's not going to be on the bench, and you're paying him $50 million a year. You're paying him more than what Patrick Mahomes is. And here's the difference. Patrick Mahomes is 26. He's still younger. So when he struggles, he can get out of that. But Aaron Rodgers at 38, Tom Brady at 45, you got to have your A game. You got to be in top shape. And yes, Tom Brady, I give Tom Brady credit. He is in top shape. I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers is.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is Aaron Rodgers is sitting around talking about what he doesn't have. But here's the thing is, you could have taken a little bit less money to encourage Devontae Adams to want to stay. And so the question is now, were you a product of Devontae, or because we see Devontae is still putting up good numbers in with the Raiders in Vegas, and so he's doing a great job. I think also that their philosophy of not leaning on good running backs, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are both competent running backs that both are really good in the running games between the tackles outside, and they're both more than apt in the passing game. So utilize those guys and their skills, and then spend a little bit of extra time developing these young receivers who have not. But Valdez-Scantling has been there, and so he should be able to step up into that lead role. So now the question is, are they going to make a move to bring in a veteran wide receiver? Are they going to try to go out when he's healthy and bring OBJ in, or somebody of that caliber, or make a trade before the deadline to try to bring somebody in to give him a little bit of help? But I don't think help is really the issue. I think the issue right now is leadership. It's the question that I ask a lot of my friends when we talk about the position of quarterback. Would you rather have an elite thrower of the ball? Would you have an elite leader? I'd rather have an elite leader because he can always improve throwing. The guy who throws the ball well doesn't always improve as a leader. Kansas City happens to be blessed to have a young man who's both an elite leader and an elite thrower of the ball that's going to give them an opportunity to be successful for a long time. But, yeah, you were correct. He's 11-3, right? He's only thrown 3 pass interceptions, but the aggressiveness that he has to throw the ball downfield is where he's always been really good, and now he's not being good at throwing the ball deep down the field. And so I think it's put them in a vulnerable situation. And the Packers defense hasn't played up to the level that they thought they were going to be. But at the end of the day, you can't continue to blame your teammates and say, it's I, this. Be more we.
Right, exactly. And, you're talking about leadership. I'm not sure that players want to follow Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, people will go through a brick wall for Patrick Mahomes. They will go through for Jalen Hurts. They will do it for Dak Prescott. But you get like a Russell Wilson who's a malcontent. And then he goes to Denver, and all of a sudden you see, you find out that he wasn't that great of a leader. Yes, he was early in his career because he was young, he was vibrant, and he got the ball, and they were winning and everything else, and they could tolerate it. But then he started losing, and then all those others started festering and showing up. And now you've got him allegedly exercising 8 hours on a plane and disturbing all the other players, going over to London. And I just, you gotta. This is a very, very important league where you gotta have strong leadership. Period. And you look at Matt LaFleur. He's won 13 games the last 3 years. Nobody else has done that in the NFL and not win a championship. He hasn't won anything. In fact, he's barely made it to the NFC Championship game, and I believe that was once. And that was 2 years ago when they lost to Tampa Bay. So you got to have these. You got to have this leadership. And if anything, look at Kansas City. Everybody talks about Kansas City, what they're doing wrong and everything else. But look who's always playing in the chance to go to the Super Bowl. Maybe they've only gone 2 of the 4 years, but they've been in the AFC Championship 4 years in a row at home. Nobody else has done that. Not Pittsburgh, not Dallas, not Oakland, not any of those teams.
Absolutely. Well, as they always, as they started to call it, the Kansas City Invitational is the AFC Championship game. So,
exactly.
Do we need to take a break?
Let's take a quick break. Just take a 1 minute break, so we can, and we'll get back on it real quickly. So, Coach 24 has been running the show, and I've been sitting back, and I'm letting his leadership do very well. So we will be back on any given Sunday on KUAW. So what do you want to go into?
We can talk more NFL or talk a little NBA.
All right. Coach 24, Darwin Penny, Brian Cressy, Awesome Voice, and DJ Scatter, George Walker behind the scenes. We're any given Sunday, 816-599-6893 is the phone number. We are still waiting for a phone call to answer our trivia question, which was, what is Dusty Baker's birth name? I can't remember how they say that. His given name.
Given name, or for some of y'all who have been moving fast, government name. There's some people out there who know what I'm talking about. What is your government name?
Gotcha. So my mom she tried calling me while we were talking, and then she just messaged me. She was like, who is this new player that the Chiefs got? Well, we've been thinking about OBJ. You even talked about last week what the Chiefs could give for Christian McCaffrey, and then 2 hours later, he's already going to San Francisco. And here is the thing. The Rams could have gotten McCaffrey, but they were giving up a 5th-round draft pick instead of a 4th round. And because of that, the Carolina Panthers took the 49ers offer instead of the Rams. So the Rams lost out on another thing. But we've got Kadarius Toney, I believe he's 24, third-year player from the Giants. Now his best ability is not his availability because he's been often hurt off and on. What do you think of this transaction happening?
Well, I think what it does is for me, it brings another guy in to see what he can bring. He's shown flashes in the past, but never anything consistently. As you said, he's 23. He'll be 24 in January. Last year, he caught 35 passes for 420 yards, no touchdowns. And so I think one of the biggest things is being able to have somebody who's going to be an end zone presence. Really quick at coming out of his breaks. He does have some really good speed and could potentially be where you could have 2 deep threats. Certainly still waiting on McCole Hardeman really to live up to being the next Tyreek. Certainly not as fast as Tyreek, but he has over-the-top speed where you could really get that defense thinking about the vertical route, which opened up some of your underneath routes where Travis Kelce and others continue to work in that. I think the Chiefs have struggled to have a consistent receiver in the slot, which is what I believe they want to bring Toney in, is to be more of a slot receiver who can run the intermediate routes but has the ability to take an intermediate route over the top. And so I don't think he is a guy who is really a difference maker, but maybe he completes the receiving cores where it's more of a complete, where there's not a big drop off from the top guy to the bottom guy. I think the guy that's really starting to emerge is Juju. Juju had a really good game last week. Let's see if he can get in sync with Mahomes and all of a sudden be another person. We know who Mahomes is going to go to in the clutch, right? It's going to be Kelce. Right. But when teams start to are able to bracket coverage him, you got to have those other guys who win one-on-one. Because of his quickness and his elite ability to come out of breaks when healthy, I think Kadarius Toney could provide that extra depth that they need at the receiver position, and that would give them that. At the end of the day, you still are going to depend on the elite thrower to get the ball, and Mahomes has always been really good about spreading the ball around. We've had games where he's been able to hit up to 8 different receivers in a game.
Well, the San Francisco win, he had 10 different receivers.
There you go.
I mean, you had Kelce 4 touchdowns a couple of weeks ago, but he really didn't perform as well as you would have expected because all the other wide receivers contributed, so they didn't need to rely on Kelce, and that's a great thing. That's what you're saying. You don't want Kelce to always be relied on because he is getting on the other side of 30. So
right, we would think that. So again, they have a term that's called JAG, just another guy, and for me, this is not a blockbuster deal. This is bringing in another guy who, let's see if we can kickstart his career while he's young, put him in a system with an elite quarterback versus coming out of being with Daniel Jones. Now you're with Patrick Mahomes, and let's see if he can bring just a little bit of a spark. But I think more than anything, he just adds some depth to the receiving course.
Absolutely. So, they're on the bye this week, so is the Chargers. Dallas, Dak Prescott is back. He didn't light it up, but he didn't need to light it up playing a Detroit team who helped Dallas by turning the ball over 5 times, and especially down at the 1-foot line. They didn't challenge. I don't know why Detroit Campbell didn't, at least challenge the fact that because the wide receiver, the tight end Walker was supposedly stopped at the half-yard line, but they still should have checked it out. But then they didn't. The next play he fumbles, and then Dallas has it, and then that was the last time that they saw daylight.
Absolutely. When you look at the replay, he would have been short of the goal line. The problem is that where they marked it, they marked him at the 1.5 maybe, when really he should have probably been at the half-yard line.
Right.
Then maybe you don't hand the ball off, you quarterback sneak it, but instead they did try to hand the ball off. There was a fumble, and then obviously Dallas was able to get some breathing room, and then there was a turnover late in the game, 2 late turnovers that really sealed the deal, that didn't allow Detroit to get back in the game. Dallas did not play at an elite level offensively, but defensively they continued to shine and put pressure on the quarterback, and now they're starting to take the ball away again like they did. One of the things you talk about certainly with Trayvon Diggs, again, is one of the leaders in the league. He's got 3 interceptions. One he had Sunday was controversial. Did he really truly get both of his hands under it? That was something else that they said possibly Dan Campbell could have challenged that. Now, anytime you have a turnover, it's supposed to be reviewed by New York. Regardless of that, they said they reviewed it and didn't see anything, but they said that possibly there could have been a challenge. Did the ball split his arms?
Right.
His arms were in a great position, but did the ball split and where any part of the ball touched the ground, which then would have nullified the interception? I think that was as much of a key part of the game as the fumble was, that really kind of got Dallas back in, and they started to get the running game going a little bit more with Zeke and Pollard. It's going to be interesting for them this week because Zeke may not play. I think it would be wise for them not to play him because after the Chicago game, they do have a bye.
Right.
The Bears looked much better in their last game because I certainly did not have them winning.
No, we both picked New England to win. I thought Bill Belichick was going to get his 325th victory, overpass George Halas against the Bears, since George Halas was the founder of the Chicago Bears. But I watched that game. Mac Jones came in, and you could have easily have not have played him. Bill Belichick is playing these games. You can play those games with Tom Brady and get away with it, but now with Mac Jones and Zappe, I'm not sure you can do that. And so you put Mac Jones in, he struggles. They pull him really quick. Zappe scores the touchdown real quick. I'm thinking, okay, New England's back, and they never showed up after that.
Absolutely. The thing I want to kind of look at Chicago was Fields. Fields looked better during this game, able to escape the pocket with his legs, able to throw the ball a little bit better on a night where the conditions did not favor really throwing the ball well. And so could that be a problem for the Dallas defense in this weekend, where these 2 games for Dallas were supposed to be games that would get them back up and running, give Dak a little bit of breathing room while coming off the broken thumb, and then go into their bye week refreshed to try to make a run toward the postseason and try to stay pace, not only with the Eagles, but the surprising Giants. It's still hard to believe that the Giants only have 1 loss.
And Daniel Jones, for the first time in his career, won 4 games in a row. So, and I picked Jacksonville, and Jacksonville was a half a yard, was a Kevin Dyson reach out away from scoring that touchdown. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's the term for the Super Bowl when Mike Jones, who is a Kansas City native, he went to Southwest High School. I've got friends who know him very well, made the winning tackle against Kevin Dyson, though they said Andre Dyson. I was like, no, that's not Andre Dyson. It's Kevin Dyson. So, but anyway, games like that where he would have scored would have normally been the Giants' forte, but instead they shut him down and kept him from scoring, and then allowed them to go to 6-1. So they are looking good, and I can't remember who they're playing this week, but they have a great shot at going 7-1, which will, put them tied, or actually. No, Dallas has 2 losses, don't they? Mm-hmm. So they would keep in second place. And you got the AFC East and the NFC Beast. I will say Beast. I won't say the Beast for the AFC. But those are the 2 strongest divisions in football right now.
Absolutely. So the Giants are at the Seahawks this week, and so we'll see how they do against a much improved Seahawks team, who most people had written off this year. As you know, it was just a year for them to get ready to have a great draft pick on picking one of the elite quarterbacks coming out of college this year. But lo and behold, who would have thunk it? Yep. Here they are, 4-3. Could have easily been 5-2 with their record. And who's playing well? Geno Smith. Mm-hmm. Remember this guy?
Yep.
Remember him coming out of the draft and people thinking he was going to be something, and he hadn't really lived up to it. And then all of a sudden now Geno's found stability, and he's doing what Pete Carroll asked him to do, is just be conservative with the ball, take your shots downfield. And he's doing it now without one of his best receivers,
right,
with Metcalf being injured. And so they've been able to do that, but they've established their running game again. They lost my cousin, Rashad Penny, to a leg injury, and then we're able to bring in this Kenneth Walker III, and this guy just blasted up. And so everybody who picked him up on their fantasy team like I did last week, this guy here really had a great week. And so playing solid defense, not great, but solid defense, Geno not turning the ball over and establishing their running game. Guess what? Seattle kind of looks like they did with the Legion of Boom. Not as great on defense when they weren't asking Russell to do a whole lot. And so they've been a surprise out there when you look at how they've gone about their business this year. The Bills are still the class, I think, of the AFC, with the Chiefs being 1A. And then you got the Ravens still trying to figure out, man, why aren't we 7-0? We're 4-3, and they've given up leads. The Bengals seem to be finding their stride. Joe Burrow's looking really good right now. Only Patrick Mahomes has more passing yards than Joe Burrow, and so he's starting to settle in. And are they going to be poised to get back not only to the postseason, but get back to the AFC Championship game and even the Super Bowl again? Because you remember, we came in at this year and said, are they going to take that next step? And then what do they do the first 2 weeks? They lay an egg the first 2 weeks, lose to a Dakless Cowboys team. Joe got sacked about 7 times that day, and so things looked really bad. There are some teams definitely in transition right now, and especially teams that have tried to revive their seasons with older quarterbacks, a la the Colts.
Absolutely. So, and they are a mess, but we are near the end of our show, and we have still our best segment on our show, and that is Penny for Your Thoughts.
Penny for Your Thoughts today. Earlier, we talked about the World Series, and I want to bring a little bit of attention to the World Series. For the first time in 72 years, neither team in the World Series will have an African-American United States born on their active roster. We have seen the decline in African-American participation at baseball at the major league level with less than 100 major leaguers. We're at about 6% African-American participation at the major league level. And so my challenge is for us to get our young people back out playing the game. Where have they gone? Where have the Ricky Hendersons and the Willie McGees and the Frank Whites and the Amos Otises and the Bo Jacksons and the Deion Sanders and the Reggie Sanders? Where have those guys? Where is Mr. October? Okay, Reggie Jackson. Where is Jackie? And I think back to Jackie's last conversation that he had with America prior to his death. He wasn't talking about participation on the field. His biggest challenge was that there would be an African-American manager, and there were still 3 years before Frank Robinson became the first African-American manager for the Cleveland Indians. But what would Jackie be saying today, where we have two teams that since his third year in the league was the last time that there wasn't an African-American playing in the World Series. So Major League Baseball has some work to do.
Absolutely.
I've got some work to do, and so many others. Let's get these kids out playing baseball.
Absolutely. And that will end our show. So now, real quick, you will not be here next week or the week after. So we will probably take next week off. We'll have a recording show, but I will show up the week after. So everybody have a great Halloween. I'm looking forward to spending time with my family, as you are too. And I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice, with Coach 24 Darwin Penny, George Walker, DJ Scatter. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a great football weekend.